Shortly before the Fishrot saga was revealed, a Namibian woman, Sharon Neumbo, made headlines after having been arrested for allegedly stealing 170,000 Namibian dollars from a fishing company that she was on the board of. In this It's a Wrap exclusive, I chatted with her about her arrest and the events that led up to the arrest of the Fishrot Six: former Fisheries Minister Bernard Esau, former Justice Minister Saki Shangala, former Managing Director at Investec Asset Management in Namibia, James Hatukilipi, suspended Investec Namibia Clients Director Ricardo Gustavo, Bernard Esau's son-in-law, Tamsin Fiti Hatukilipi, and Pius Mwatelulo. Sharon, you made headlines last year after finding yourself in a jail cell in Klein Windhoek, somehow related to this Fishrot story, and nobody really understands what went down there. Please explain.
Well, it's a strange story actually. So I belong to a company that is called Casidra Fisheries, and Casidra is part of Cinco Fishing. And in Casidra, I'm a director, and at Cinco as well, I serve as chairperson, the current chairperson there. So in Casidra, I have a fellow director and shareholder. Her name is Jacqueline Ann, and Jacqueline Ann, over the years, had been responsible for operations, despite the fact that she denied it on behalf of the summary group of companies. You know, they came and of course they said they had expertise, but when they arrived, suddenly Jackie was very much involved in it because she had prior history and she had like 20 years experience or something like that in the fishing. So she started doing the operations for them, and obviously there was a relationship fostered there. It's like a 7-year relationship, and I have reason to believe, in fact, that she was doing all the operations on behalf of all the companies, including those that were involved in the Fishrot. So anyway, of course, in 2016, I started to ask a lot of questions around what's going on, and I think there was a deliberate attempt to then remove me from the boards that I was serving on, including Cinco, which they did. And then, of course, things happened there, the vessel registration and all of these things. And Jacqueline Ann was very instrumental in having me removed. But relating to my arrest then, generally within the company we have a history of taking loans, right? But Jacqueline Ann and I at that time, our relationship had deteriorated because of, obviously, you know, you can't serve two masters, and she had her side, and it was clear she had made her side. And so I wasn't going to consult her in getting the loan, because it was never going to be a yes, you know. But anyway, so the loan was done. The money was received by me. I was in contact with a fellow director. She knew. Even the day I made the payment, it was a Thursday, I made the payment to Jacqueline, back to the company. The money was in the account, and then the arrest was done on Friday morning. But before that, on the Tuesday, I had opened the case, because remember, I just now came back onto the board last year for the first time. So for the first time, I had the opportunity to look and see what actually happened. So I found that there was huge amounts of money that were transferred from the company that we co-owned with the Icelandics, Arctic Nam. You know, at the time, I had calculated about between 60 to 80 million that was transferred unlawfully from the company, and so we tried to seek answers. But by that time, the Icelandics were not coming to Namibia anymore. You know, they had appointed proxies. Board meetings is usually a lawyer or an accountant. They're just nowhere to be found. So of course the natural thing to do was to open a case. And in going through my investigation, I realized that, or my own investigation before I opened the case, was that 40 million of the 80 or the 60 that I found, 40 million was transferred to a company in Mauritius, and the SWIFT documents were prepared by Jacqueline Ann. Although signed off by Johannes, the forms were completed by Jacqueline Ann. So it's part of the case, so there was no answers forthcoming, and she knew all the time we were querying these things, and she had never said anything. So I really believe that my arrest was done as a way to intimidate me. Also, at that time, I think it was clear with the Icelandics that I was asking questions that were uncomfortable, you know, and that they didn't want me around, and so they were going to do whatever it takes. Whether they were in cahoots with the locals, I don't know. Or with the local accused, I don't know. But from their side, because I've had comments made directly to me to say, not directly. Some of them came via people, but it is to say stuff. One of them, my favorite one, was to say, you have whatever you're trying to do. You're the only one. You and Johannes are the only people that are going to come out of this thing hurt. Nothing is going to happen to us, or nothing's going to happen to them. Or you have no idea how powerful these people are that you are trying to fight and go against and all of these things. And all the while, I was just trying to fight basically for what is ours, what is our investment that we had done in the vessel Highness, one, and two, the money that was stolen from Arctic Nam. And Arctic Nam, why I say it's a theft again, it's, the company had been operational for 5 years before that, and we'd been making profits. There was a year we made a profit of 100 million at the end of the year. And the following year, soon after Johannes left mid-2016, 2017, we made a loss of 100 million. The conditions were exactly the same. The quota size was exactly the same. There was no increases in fuel prices or a decrease in demand of the commodity or of the resource, but we made 100 million loss. And that was it. And it was just people were expected to understand that. And that then also ensued into 2018, which was at the end of 2018, our agreements were going to come to an end. So 2018 was a similar situation, 100 million loss again. And there hasn't been obviously an AGM to explain what happened for 2017 and 18. There's no financial statements, there's draft financial statements that were sent. And one of the Icelandic directors, Eil Arnesen, he called, because the chairperson of Arctic Nam is Virgilio de Souza, he called Virgilio and he said, look, on the phone, he says to him, just sign the financials and set them through. So I can't just sign financials and send them through. I mean, what happened? And that was the end of it. That was the end of communication that we had with them. So we have these unsigned financial statements. The auditors of that company, SGA, have since resigned as auditors of record. We don't know what happened. So those are all these answers that we were trying to do. And like I said, in 2016, when I started to suspect that there's a lot going on here, I was the first person that came up with the idea of initiating a forensic audit. That's where the problem started, and then, all sorts of people came to talk to me and leave this thing behind, leave it and don't push this and just leave it and we can take care of you and all sorts of things, yes. That later obviously were used against me to say that it was a bribe, or I was attempting to solicit a bribe from them, which was never the case,
Okay, so tell me about the day you got arrested. How and where did that go down?
We had a board meeting, coincidentally, for Arctic Nam to try and approve the appointment of a forensic auditor or an expert to try and determine what happened in it. Those are one of the agenda points. So the meeting was at the Weinberg at the meeting rooms, and everybody obviously in the company that is involved knows there's a board meeting. So my whereabouts were not a secret. I arrived at the meeting about 10 minutes before, and we were chatting. And of course, they didn't come. They sent a legal representative as a proxy, which they do on the regular in all the companies they own now. But the meeting started, and about 15 minutes into it, there was a knock on the door, and there was a gentleman that said, no, he's looking for me. And so I nonchalantly, I told everybody, just go on with the meeting. I'm quickly going to go outside and just try and sort it out. So I walk outside, and there's literally like 12 men standing there.